So today we're also going to talk about the router. Router is a pretty versatile tool in your toolkit arsenal. Neat tool for doing a lot of finishes. Great tool for doing decorative edges and different pieces on the nicer finishing sides. It's also a great tool. You can cut dados, you can cut different slots and different things with it. And so it's very, very versatile. A neat tool to have around for lots of different things. As to use the router, there are a handful of kind of tips and tricks and pieces to it, but it's a relatively straightforward machine. You can see that this here is the table, and then your bit fits into a chuck right here, similar to some of the other tools. And as you put your bit in, then you tighten that down, and then you make height adjustments and use it. Kevin's going to kind of help me with some of the pieces, and we'll talk you through how to set this up. But basically, the bit that we're going to use today, there's a lot of different bits, but the bit we're going to use is a decorative edge for doing kind of a rounded edge to a board, whether that's like a frame or a tabletop or whatever the case may be. But this tooth is going to cut kind of a rounded edge. It has a collar on it. These collars are nice because it's not going to let the blade go any deeper into the wood. So once you set your table height and you have your collar, you can touch that wood and go, and that collar is just going to run right along the board and allow you to have an even cut all the way across the edge, as long as you hold the pressure steady. So basically, Kevin's going to put his bit in the chuck, and this bit fits in there, and then because that spins pretty fast, you have to tighten it down with a wrench. You can see this piece right here that Kevin's got his hand on. It's a collar that slides into lock. Kind of, you can see where it slides in and locks that. Now when he puts his wrench on there, he can tighten that chuck down. First he's probably going to hand tighten. So once you hand tighten it, then you can go ahead and take your wrench and get it down really snug. There you go. Okay, and then you release that. A very key feature is to make sure that releases. There's actually a safety feature that if you wanted to, once that releases, you could take a screwdriver and tighten that little screw right there so that this wouldn't slide really easy, so it doesn't get bumped when you're operating the machine. For like extended use and lots of use, it may be something to do. Once you've done that, you can then take a look at the machine. Over here is how you adjust your depth. First thing you're going to do is release this collar, and now this table slides up and down on the base. And so there's lots of different ways to adjust your depth, but what you're going to do is first kind of get where you need that to be, kind of where you think you kind of want it at. Push this button in, and then slide your table about where you think it should be. Once you've made that adjustment, you can fine-tune with this dial. Okay? Now, there's lots of different ways to make your adjustments, but early on, the easiest thing to do is to get an idea of about where you want that, where you think you want that to cut, and then lock it. Pick up the router. Kevin is also putting this last little safety feature in. This piece snaps in so that when he's running it, it doesn't throw sawdust in extra places. But now you can set that router down, and as you look, you can kind of get an idea of about where you want that, where that's going to cut when you set the table flat. And that looks like it's going to go just a little bit too deep for what we want. And so all we do is we just, leaving that sitting there, flip that, and then turn your dial to raise or lower to about where you want it to be. Okay. Lock that into position. So now that we've got our depth set where we want it to be, Kevin's going to go ahead and do a demo for us. You're always going to start with your router flipped up, making sure it's plugged in, and then you turn the power on. Let that bit get up to full speed, and then you pick it up. And always when you're done, you store the router facing up like that, just like Kevin did. One of the things he's going to show you next is how to go around a corner. What you're going to see him do around this corner is you'll start and you'll come around the corner, and then you go back around the corner 2 or 3 times, making sure that you get that corner nice and rounded, because corners tend to jump a little bit. And so you kind of go back and forth 2 or 3 times getting that just right. So Kevin will show you that real quick. So then you see he just went back and forth. We even kind of gave Kevin a little bit of a challenge and had him do this rounded cutout piece also that was cut out of bandsaw. But you can see just kind of back and forth a little bit, making sure you get them all, and that's it. Router's pretty straightforward from there. That's doing decorative edges. If you're going to do say a dado cut or something like that, you can do similar to what we've talked about with the table saw things. You would set up kind of a fence to run along so you run straight, but same concept as that as far as setting up the machine and using it. Otherwise, we'll be practicing with those in class on Tuesday.